Oh god, Monokuma, what are you doing? She still looked confused, and Monokuma threw up his arms in frustration.
You! Your subtitles are pointy, I can't even predict it anymore! Arrgh!
A frightening roar burst from Monokuma's mouth as he leapt at Mukuro with his sharp claws extended. Mukuro! Dodge! At that moment, her face became completely emotionless. It was not a conscious action. The defensive instincts she honed during her time with Fairy temporarily suppressed her emotions as she countered Monokuma's attack. Oh yeah, her ultimate soldier persona is kicking once again. Mukuro grabbed the nearby fourth stand and used it to parry Monokuma's claws. However, Monokuma's claws seemed to be made with a special alloy, as easily sliced the bar in half diagonally. But instead of following up his attack, Monokuma continued talking to Mukuro.
I guess you're not much of a disappointment when it comes to fighting. In fact, if you are so pathetic that you died from that single attack, that would have been interesting in its own way. But right now, you're just incompetent at everything.
I'm sorry, said Mukuro. I couldn't help blocking your attack. But there's no way I can fight you, Junko. After all, I'm all you have. I'm the only one who understands you at all. Mukuro's words were riddled with endless dismay. The contrast between her usual stoic self and the way she was acting now was so stark, people might assume she had multiple personalities. However, Monokuma just quietly stared at her. He was perfectly still, as if all his functions had powered down completely. But Mukuro continued to share her feelings. There's no way I can just leave you alone. And then Monokuma broke his silence, but at that moment, a monitor in the nurse's office lit up, displaying a girl's face, Junko Enoshima. Junko. At the same time, a voice completely unlike Monokuma's began to play from the speakers.
Hey, Mukuro!
Junko. It had been several days since Mukuro had heard her sister's real voice, though her face remained emotionless. Excitement sparkled in her eyes. However, that shine immediately dulled. I'm grateful to you, Mukuro. I mean it. Junko's voice emanating from the speaker sounded very gentle and kind. Junko? I'm really sorry. I said so many mean things to you. I even tried to kill you earlier, and I was about to make you do something horrible just now. Even though I know about your feelings toward Makoto, I don't. You don't have to force yourself. Even if you didn't notice, it was totally obvious to anyone looking at you. You never cared about the class photos, but when Makoto said he was going to take one, you made sure you were facing the camera. And then Junko Enoshima, the ultimate despair, flashed a smile. A pure, sweet smile. On the monitor, she looked like a normal high school girl teasing her older sister. And yet, Mukuro could feel despair and anxiety encasing themselves around her. I always thought you should have tried hard to take pictures with Makoto. But I guess that's what makes you so disappointing. Still, even though you're disappointing and annoying, I still love you. Mukuro trembled upon hearing those words. That's all she ever wanted to hear her sister say. Mukuro believed. No matter what Junko said, she believed she really loved her. She believed she was the only one who could truly understand the despair known as Junko Enoshima. She was naive. As soon as she heard Junko say, I love you, Mukuro realized she never completely understood her sister. It was only at this moment that Mukuro finally understood her sister's feelings. Junko's words right now were kind. Perhaps that kindness was completely honest. The words, I love you, might have been true as well. However, for Junko Enoshima, this was her way of saying goodbye. She was severing the ties between them. It was painfully clear to Mukuro. And then, before she could even say anything, the girl in the monitor made a remark that cut Mukuro to the bone. I'm sure someday you'll make your dreams come true. Ultimate despairs never talk to each other like this. A simple truth stabbed into Mukuro's heart. Junko had no further use for her. Her own sister was parting ways with her. Mukuro had dedicated over 10 years of her life to the cause of ultimate despair, and at this moment, it all counted for nothing. But those years no longer mattered to Mukuro. Her sister's rejection was more than enough to send her into the depths of despair. That's why Mukuro, even now, clung to a small sliver of hope. And it is at this point that Mukuro is changing. Meanwhile, Junko was still on the monitor.
Yeah, right. Did you really think I'd say something that nice? You're so annoying. Can you just hurry up and disappear already?
Mukuro hoped Junko would say something like that. She hoped that she'd start verbally abusing her again, or call her useless and incompetent. Mukuro was no masochist, but she'd prefer to be showered with bullets and contempt than endure this kind of emotional pain. No, Mukuro! But
I love you, Mukuro. Bye-bye.
the monitor went black, leaving Mukuro to process the horrible goodbye she'd just received. And as if on cue, Monokuma started moving again.
Isn't family love so nice? By the way, did you know that in about half of murder cases the killer is a family member?
Monokuma spoke in his usual tone of voice, but it was unclear if his words were getting through to Mukuro. Mukuro let the blood pack in her hand fall to the floor, and tightened her grip on the iron bar she was still holding. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Junko, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. She mumbled quietly, as if she were chanting a spell, and walked past the blood pack on the floor to Makoto's bedside with the iron bar in her hands. No, Mukuro, no! I'll do it properly. I'll make sure I do it. Mukuro, what are you gonna do?
Oh?
Said Monokuma, perking up.
What are you gonna properly do to Makoto with that big fake rod you got there? Are you gonna do him? Are you gonna do him in? Either way, I'm starting to feel some heart-throbbing excitement.
Mukuro looked like she had been completely broken. Monokuma walked closer to her with eager anticipation. Suddenly, Monokuma's body silently floated into the air.
Huh?
Huh? With no expression on his face, Monokuma tried to see what had just happened to him. And in the blink of an eye, an iron bar ripped through his body. Oh, yes! Oh, that's right. You're gonna do it properly, Mukuro. The tip of the bar, which had been cut diagonally earlier into a sharp point, went straight through Monokuma and stabbed into a surveillance camera. Damn! The lens was completely destroyed, and the camera shot out sparks as it broke down. The iron bar was still grabbed into the surveillance camera as Monokuma dangled from the other end. He opened his mouth as if to say something, but only static came out. A few seconds later, his functions came to a complete stop. Without making a sound at all, Mukuro had kicked Monokuma into the air. And as soon as Monokuma's power source and his bomb circuit had perfectly aligned with the surveillance camera in the nurse's office, Mukuro plunged the iron bar into all three of them. Oh! No normal human has the skill to utilize such a technique. Not even ultimate. All the hesitation within Mukuro had vanished. Her eyes sparkled like a panther stalking its prey at night. A tense aura surrounded Mukuro, and even more so than when she fought Sakura earlier. Ignoring Monokuma's lifeless form, she looked at Makoto as she breathed softly and remembered her sister's parting words. So this is despair. She mumbled to herself. I'm sorry, Junko. I never really understood what despair was. She spoke without emotion, like a machine. But it's going to be alright now. I finally understand. Hidden within her, passions began to stir. So, I'll make sure I make you happy, Junko. I'll make sure I fill you with despair. Oh yeah, that's what I'm talking about, Mukuro. I'll save Makoto. I make sure the others don't die. I'll let them escape from this place. I'll deal with the people on the outside too. He invested so much time and killed so many people for the sake of this plan. And I'll destroy every last remnant of it. And I'll destroy every last remnant of it. For you. This was not an act of vengeance toward her sister who had abandoned her. This was an act of mercy. You can even call it an act of love. A love for her sister. Struck between the ultimate despair and the hope she gained from Makoto, Mukuro was being refined into something that was unlike despair or hope. And she had no way of knowing where her path would lead. You know what this means, Mukuro? You don't have to decide your own future because of Junko. You can create your own future. You know what you're gonna have to do. Alright, Mukuro. Over 10 minutes had passed. The sound of the students leaving the gym and making their way to the nurse's office rang throughout the hall. Genocide Jack had continued to dodge Sakura's attacks with her tricky movements. I guess they're still fighting, eh? But when Byakuya blurted out, "Enough already, you irritated pervert." Genocide Jack stopped in her tracks. Hey, actually, hold on, let me just read this again. Are they still attacking while they're also leaving the gym?
Oh my. Getting chewed out by my bespectacled Byakuya is making my masochistic side get all tingly. They say the line between sadism.
What the fuck? Do I have a problem with saying that word? They say the line between sadism and masochism is paper thin,
But in my case, it's more like a Venn diagram. Words can explain these hot waves of passion swimming from the top of my head to the tips of my toes.
As she rambled incoherently about Byakuya, the other students tied her up with a microphone cable from the gym and locked her in her room. At least it's not an extension cord. Half the students stayed behind to keep an eye on her, while the rest left to search the grounds of her school. As soon as the door to the nurse's office stall opened, Kyoko saw a non-functioning Monokuma with a hole in its chest and the remains of a surveillance camera. It wasn't just in the nurse's office, though. On their way there, the students had seen several destroyed surveillance cameras and scattered Monokuma bodies. Oh boy. But yeah, I actually cannot believe this. Mukuro actually destroyed, a couple of Monokumas till now. This was a clear violation of school regulations, but if Mukuro was allied with Monokuma, those regulations wouldn't apply to her anyway. But the Monokuma inside the gym was no longer moving and the students had lost contact with the hacker, Beishiki Madarai. So the students assumed that Madarai had taken control of a different Monokuma and went after Mukuro on his own. You know, it's a little bit hard looking at reading this novel from the perspective of someone who already played the first Danganronpa. I know what is going on behind the curtains. Whereas for Kyoko, this is completely new. Once again, this is just something. It's not that easy to understand what is behind the curtains so easily for her. I mean, she's trying to figure out this whole thing, but I'm also trying to think from the perspective of someone who really doesn't know what is going on behind the curtains, kind of like Kyoko. But it's kind of hard to do that. If I were Kyoko, I mean, even the novel says that she has plenty of possibilities. That she's thinking of countless possibilities that could go on over here. Either Beishiki Madarai truly exists and that person controls Monokuma, or it could be that the mastermind is betraying Mukuro. I do have to wonder if Kyoko is thinking of that. if this, if the mastermind, if she thinks that Mukuro and the mastermind are truly in cahoots. With that in mind, Kyoko turned and looked inside the nurse's office once again. Oh, okay, let's see what Kyoko is thinking here. It was initially quiet, the beds were empty, but Kyoko could see from the bloodstains that someone had been resting there recently, a.k.a. Makoto. So she's probably thinking that what Mukuro said was true, that she wanted to take care of Makoto, hence she brought him all the way here to take care of his wounds. Looks like they're already gone. Mother remarked, but as he was about to leave, Kyoko spoke up behind him. I'm going to stay here with Chihiro and search for clues. Huh? Asked Chihiro, her timid eyes widening. Clues? She's probably asking Chihiro to check the Monokuma body. Kyoko continued to speak in a calm tone of voice. Yes, there may be some clues in these Monokuma remains. I figured you would be the best candidate for investigating machinery. Sakura spoke up. But isn't that dangerous? Since Sakura could clearly hold her own in a fight with Mukuro, she had joined the other students in searching the school grounds. Kyoko shook her head and replied, I'm sorry to say this, but if things get out of hand, Chihiro and I will just be in your way. I think it's better if we search for clues here instead of doing nothing. Besides, we might be able to use Monokuma's parts to detect any radio broadcast from the outside world. That too? You certainly have a point. Understood. We'll be exploring this floor for a while. Please shout for us if anything happens. Sakura left the nurse's office. How did she destroy Monokuma like this? As Chihiro cautiously stood over Monokuma's remains, Kyoko started searching through the room. She zeroed in on one of the beds and began studying it intensely. A moment later, Kyoko was satisfied with what she found and let out a small sigh before she spoke. Chihiro, let me apologize to you in advance. Huh? I dragged you into this gamble of mine, so if anything happens, run out into the hallway and call for help. What does that mean? But instead of answering Chihiro's question, Kyoko started talking to one of the empty beds. Wait, are you saying that... Let me say this first. I'm prepared to hear your story. No matter how ridiculous it may sound, I promise to decide if it's a lie or the truth until after I've listened to it in entirety. Yep, Mukuro is actually behind, like... Oh my god, it's like one of those situations where the person is hiding, like down in one of the beds. She's hiding behind the beds. She didn't understand what Kyoko meant at all. The ultimate... lowered her eyes and turned to the ultimate programmer to make a request. Chihiro, does your laptop have a voice recording function? And do you also have a microphone? Yeah. I wanted to use that to record everything we are about to hear. Wait, does Chihiro have a laptop? Well, actually, what the fuck am I saying over here? I've been to Chihiro's room before. I know that he has quite a lot of stuff in his room. But there's no one here. As Chihiro wondered to herself, she began connecting Monokuma's parts to her laptop and turned on the record function. I'm sure we'll pick up every sound in this room now, said Chihiro nervously. Satisfied, Kyoko nodded and once again started talking to the empty bed. Yeah, that's also a good thinking, Kyoko. To record everything that Mukuro is saying. I mean, that's something that I would do, but I know that you're the ultimate detective, Kyoko. I know that you can figure this out even without, like, a recording program. Like, you don't have to go through a recording program once again. In that case, maybe she wants to record what Mukuro is gonna say for a completely different reason. So what were you going to do if I told everyone that I found Makoto? When she heard Kyoko say that, Chihiro looked back at her and was surprised by what she saw. At that moment, the Ultima Programmer was kneeling on the floor next to Monokuma's remains. From that position, she was able to see it. Of all the beds in the nurse's office, there was one bed in particular that couldn't be seen from the entrance. Underneath that bed lay a limp Makoto. Wait, Makoto? Oh! Mukuro actually hid the... Wait. Did Mukuro actually... Yeah, she hid Makoto in one of the beds too. Like underneath the bed. A blood pack was hidden next to the bed and slowly providing Makoto with a transfusion. The contents of the blood pack were clear. Rather than blood, it seemed to be some kind of saline solution used in emergency hydration. Though it wouldn't be as effective as an actual blood transfusion, it was enough to keep him from going into shock. Oh wow, now, yeah, Mukuro is secretly doing blood transfusion to Makoto while they're hiding. Though that was the extent of Chihiro's medical knowledge. She was already surprised that Makoto had been in the nurse's office this whole time. Yep, but I can tell you for sure, only Kyoko would notice such little details. But Kyoko wasn't talking to the bed that Makoto was under, which sent chills throughout Chihiro's body. However, there was nobody under the bed that Kyoko was facing. No? But the moment Chihiro noticed that, a voice rang out from underneath it. As soon as everyone's attention was focused on Makoto, I was planning to take advantage of that opportunity to take someone hostage. As Chihiro cautiously lowered her head until it was nearly touching the floor, she was able to make out who was talking. Surprisingly, the person hiding there was clinging to the frame of the bed. Yep, the frame of the fucking bed, wow. As expected of the Ultimate Soldier. She would go all Metal Gear on us, like a ninja clinging to the ceiling. Yep. Presumably, if someone had glanced under the bed quickly, they wouldn't have noticed anybody was there. Even though it's kind of unbelievable. I mean, like, how hidden is Mukuro? I mean, based on those beds that I'm seeing right now, it doesn't feel like you can hide that much underneath it. Though Chihiro had no idea how the person was able to hide under the bed for so long, she could at least understand that their strength was beyond normal human levels. There was no question that the person hiding under the bed was Mukuro Ikusawa. But you pretended not to notice. Why? Mukuro's voice was as cold as ice, but Kyoko didn't even flinch as she responded. Because I wanted to hear your side of the story. I knew you were hiding under the bed. Compared to the others, the frame was slightly more pronounced. Chihiro tried comparing the beds to see if this was true, but she couldn't tell the difference at all. Only Kyoko's natural observation skills could let her see something like that. Mukuro seemed to come to a similar conclusion, and appeared from under the bed without making a sound. Her face was stoic and cold. Compared to the bomb inside Monokuma, Chihiro thought she was even more terrifying. However, Mukuro ignored Chihiro and shifted her gaze at Kyoko. She leaned against the wall and let her arms fall to her sides as she threw out another question. Why do you want to hear what I have to say? Kyoko thought about this simple question for a while, as if she were searching within her own heart for the answer. If I have to provide an answer, it's because I wish to remain neutral. Kyoko quietly looked down. I'm currently missing most of my memories. I don't know who I am or what talent I had to be accepted into this school. She could hear Kyoko gasp behind her, but Kyoko didn't mind and continued. But even so, I believe I should listen to what you have to say. Regardless of whether you're good or evil, I must hear all the facts in order to know the truth. Good and evil don't matter. I'll come to a conclusion based on what I see and hear. I think that's the mythology that's been instilled into me. I see. I completely forgot you were like that, Kyoko. But before I listen to what you have to say, I'd like to ask you one question first. What is it? Mukuro's reply was completely emotionless. Kyoko presented her question as if she were asking it of herself as well. What was my talent that allowed me to attend this academy? The answer to that question was simple. Kyoko, you're the ultimate detective. That answer marked a turning point for both girls. Thank you. I have a better understanding of the situation now. Kyoko slowly raised her head and presented a theory. If my memory loss wasn't just a coincidence, then no. Your group has the ability to erase people's memories. With that in mind, if we take into consideration the situation that unfolded in the gym earlier, I can only come to one possibility. Possibility? Yes. What he said to Byakuya when he thought you were taking Toko hostage. You claimed that they met 2 years ago. It's possible that might actually be true. The fact that Makoto called out Mukuro's name. The things that Mukuro confirmed and denied. Genocide Jack's outlandish claims. These key factors that Kyoko noted using her special observation skills were converging in her mind to form one answer. It's possible that Byakuya and Toko's memories were also erased, like mine, but I don't think their circumstances are quite the same as mine. But if our memories can be controlled so freely, it calls into question whether the day Monokuma appeared was really the same day we entered the academy. Like you said, it's possible that we've known Toko Fukao for the last 2 years. What do you mean? Chihiro cried, still working on connecting her laptop to Monokuma's parts. Kyoko continued, speaking to both Chihiro and Mukuro. We thought we were knocked unconscious with sleeping gas the moment we arrived at this school, but it's possible that we were simply made to think that's what happened. For example, we may have already spent the last 2 years at Hopesby Academy, and our memories of that time were completely erased. It's even possible that we aren't even ultimates at all, just random people who've been implanted with 16 years worth of false memories. Though Kyoko's claim sounded ridiculous, her face was completely serious. She looked up at Mukuro once again. Which means, I'm considering the possibility that your crazy story is actually the truth. Kyoko's declaration filled the room with silence. But she didn't let that silence overwhelm her. Kyoko cut through it with her own words. Without evidence, all I can do is make hypotheses. That's why I want to hear what you have to say, Mukuro. I have no intention of blindly believing what you're going to say, or what that self-proclaimed hacker who took over Monokuma said. She paused and lowered her eyes again, declared with powerful determination. Even so, I intend to come to a conclusion as fairly and objectively as I can, but I can only do that if you trust me and tell me the truth. Kyoko's conviction was clear from her voice. Mukuro's eyes narrowed slightly, and a tapestry of emotions flashed across her face as she looked toward Kyoko. But when she opened her mouth, her expression and voice were completely devoid of emotion. That's right. I completely forgot you are like that. Mukuro repeated this to herself, softly, then faced Kyoko and glared. That must be why Junko took care to erase more of your memories compared to the others. Very well. I'll tell you everything. And after Mukuro placed Makoto back onto the bed, she began to mechanically tell a story. The story of a girl who wanted to fill the world with despair. A girl who only felt truly happy when she was filled with despair herself. A plan for despair that began 2 years ago, or perhaps even earlier than that. How the world was currently ruled by despair itself. Mukuro provided a brief summary of everything she knew about the plan. That's why it sounded even more outrageous than Kyoko had expected. And through her story, Kyoko was able to learn the truth about herself, who she is and why she came to the academy. The fate of the academy is the real headmaster, Kyoko's father. Again, this must be really painful for Kyoko to hear about his father. As she listened to Mukuro's story, Kyoko remained silent the whole time. Her face went blank when she learned her father had died. Perhaps her memory loss and the absurdity of this situation helped to lessen the impact somewhat. But there was no guarantee Kyoko would even believe her story. After Mukuro finished speaking, Kyoko stayed silent. With her unrivaled mental prowess, she was able to listen to Mukuro's story without interrupting her or dismissing it as nonsense. Mukuro continued. You don't have to believe me. After all, any pictures that could prove my story are with Junko. All I can do is talk. After she said that, Mukuro silently walked toward the entrance to the nurse's office. When she arrived at the door, she spoke again without looking back. But even if you don't believe me, you still listened to everything I had to say, so... Kyoko, Chihiro, thank you. After apologizing in such a strange tone of voice, she turned to the bed where Makoto lay, breathing weakly. Make sure Makoto stays rested. When he wakes up, make sure you give him some sports drinks from the dining hall or supply room to drink. Please. Of course, but what are you going to do now? Asked Kyoko. Mukuro straightened herself up. Despair. I need to make Junko feel despair. Mukuro continued mumbling to herself as she opened the door. There's nothing else I can do. No, there's something you can do. Mukuro stopped walking as Kyoko spoke firmly. Regardless of whether Monokuma is really Junko Enoshima or Beishiki Madurai, if you're dealing with him, you won't be able to lay a finger on Makoto. I don't fully trust you, but if you're really concerned for Makoto's life, I'm willing to work with you. Unlike Beishiki, who's probably abandoned him already. Right? Yep, Kyoko figured that out herself. If it was Beishiki Madurai, he didn't care about Makoto's condition at all. But Mukuro surely did. Which does straighten her story. Even if Kyoko doesn't truly believe if what Mukuro is saying is right or not, whether it's Junko or Mukuro. I think that she knows that. I think that she figured out until now that Mukuro actually cares about Makoto. I'm sorry. I don't really work well with the others. Mukuro looked away, then bowed her head as she left the nurse's office. But, I'll do my best. The doors closed, and Mukuro was gone. I'm sorry for involving you in something so dangerous, Chihiro. As she continued to organize the vast amount of information that Mukuro gave her, Kyoko turned to Chihiro, who was still working on Monokuma. I'm telling you, like, Kyoko is just the best. There's just no limit to her awesomeness. Like, she's truly a fantastic detective. As she trembled with fear, Chihiro slowly looked back at Kyoko. Kyoko, about what Mukuro said just now. Chihiro's face turned pale as she struggled with her words, and Kyoko tried to calm her down. We cannot determine if anything she told us was true or not. There's no need to be afraid. But Chihiro shook her head and returned to looking at her laptop. I think she's telling the truth. What are you basing that on? Well, it looks like Monokuma is really being controlled from the outside. Part of Monokuma's system had been connected to Chihiro's laptop. Monokuma's system had been connected to Chihiro's laptop, and she was analyzing the data within its control system. And it was then that the ultimate programmer noticed something unusual about it. This control program. I thought it would be another year before the system became fully operational. Wait, what? Chihiro started trembling so much that she was unable to continue speaking. We cannot confirm that, said Kyoko, proposing another possibility to avoid jumping to conclusions. It's possible that a similar program was being developed in secret. That too, but Chihiro adamantly shook her head and said, No, that's not it. It just looks very familiar to me. Ugh, don't tell me. Kyoko, you know what this means? If Chihiro is saying that this looks familiar to you, to him, this could actually mean that the program, like the AI used for Monokuma, was actually built by him. You can probably think of that possibility too, don't you? Kyoko looked over Chihiro's trembling shoulders to peer at the screen, and that's when she noticed. This program. Yep. I think that this truly strengthens Mukuro's story as well, don't you think, Kyoko? Chihiro, did you create this? All the ultimate programmer could do was nod weakly.